What is good, everybody, and welcome to Between Frets, a space where female musicians meet and discuss all things music. I am Shawnee Marshall, and I am doing very lovely. Thank you for asking. Me and the rest of the founders are working very, very hard and making some new moves, preparing for 2020. So make sure you catch up with us on our social media at Fret Sisters. Also, we do have merch, so check it out on one website, and we will post the link on there for y'all later, is fretsisters.storeenvy.com. You can check out our merch. We have a lot of varieties of our merch: t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, hats, mugs, beach towels, socks. Almost you name it. Try everything to create our brand into many things. So we have a wonderful show for you guys today. So when we come back, I will be joining with singer-songwriter and bass player Pia Renee. So stay tuned.
Hey, Jenny Jam here. Got a video? Tag us at Fret Sisters, or you can email us at fretsistersmusic@gmail.com. And we're on Facebook and Instagram at Fret Sisters. So don't forget to hit that follow button so you can catch up on all the latest topics, tea, and interviews. Peace.
And we are back. Joining me is a vocalist and bassist from Chicago, Illinois, who is determined to bring soul and love back to R&B music and coined herself as a servant of love. How you doing, Miss Pia?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. So let's start by when you was growing up. What's your earliest memory of music, and what was your first instrument?
That's a great question. It gives me all the feels. So my earliest memory of music was watching Snow White, the original Disney version, on VHS. This was a part of my childhood, when you watch movies over and over and over and over again. Yeah. So I was rewinding the tape, watching it over and over again. And there's a part in Snow White where she's singing with the birds, and they're doing this like call and response thing. And that stood out to me as a little girl. I had to be about 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And I went inside my mother's closet, because I used to play in my mama's closet. And I noticed when I closed the door, I could hear myself really well. So I said, I want to see if I could do that. So I paused the movie. I went in my mom's closet and I did the same. I was able to mimic her sounds with the birds. And that's when I discovered that I could sing. And I would say my first instrument is my voice.
Yeah, singing is like one of the basic things before you even touch an instrument.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I love the hearing your own voice when you go especially I used to do the same thing, go in my closet and hear myself and hearing these acoustics.
Yeah.
So singing was definitely the first thing. But what artists or anyone that influenced you that got you interested in the bass?
Man, that's a great question. So when I started let me tell you how interesting this is. So the first guitar I ever picked up was a bass. The first one. And I've discovered I'm left-handed naturally, but my daughter's grandfather plays bass guitar, and he had one sitting around his house. So I picked it up and I turned it upside down, which let me know what my orientation was on the bass. But what inspired me to pick up guitar in general was Prince. So I have a really good friend. He goes by the name of Frankie Blaze. He's an amazing self-taught guitarist, and I love Prince, and so I wanted to be a guitar player, and I wanted to be like Prince. But oddly enough, the first guitar I picked up was bass. Who knew I would come back to that first thing I laid my hands on? So I started learning bass. When I picked up the guitar, I didn't have a understanding, a cognizance of what was beginner, intermediate, or advanced learning material. So I get this guitar, I go to Guitar Center, I buy what's known as the guitar grimoire. And that's super advanced.
Yes.
I didn't know, but I had no idea. So I bought the DVD and the book. So I don't know if you ever seen the DVD, but it's kind of like on the fucking, excuse me.
It's unfiltered. You can say whatever you say.
Oh, good. So it's on the like heavy metal side. So dude had like this hood on and sitting on this throne, and it was kind of like the angel of death, and he was talking about modes and chords. It was, and I didn't understand what the fuck is a mode. Like, what is that? So I literally was watching the DVD, and I started crying. I started bawling. Like, what's wrong with me? I don't get it. But I didn't know that that's advanced material. I didn't know. So I continued on to my journey, and I said, you know what? Let me go down to the local college and see if they got some, like, if they offer lessons or classes. So I go down. I had never been in college before. I never set foot on the college campus. So I go downtown to Harold Washington College in Chicago. I walk in there. I'm nervous. I don't know who to talk to. People coming in and out. I don't know what to do. So I go up to the security desk and I said, well, do you guys have guitar classes here? He's like, oh, you got to look in that book over there. And he pointed, and I was so timid and nervous and, feeling sensitive about not knowing what to do. I just looked and didn't know what he was talking about. So I just walked out the building feeling defeated. So as I walked out the building, I saw this guy walking down the street with a gig bag on his back with what I thought was a guitar in it. So I chased this man down. It's like, excuse me, sir, excuse me. I was like, can you please tell me where I can get some guitar lessons from? And he stepped back and he looked me up and down like, guitar? Don't play no guitar, play bass. I was like, what? And it was so funny. So I was like, well, what's the difference? And he unzipped his gig bag and he was explaining the strings and the difference. And he took me under his wing, and that was my first bass mentor. And I bought, from that moment, I went on eBay, and my first bass guitar was a 5-string Bryce bass. I paid like $300 for it. It was probably worth like $100. and that was my first bass. And the rest was history. I would just pick up the bass and work on my fingering and work on playing scales and stuff while watching TV just to get my dexterity built. I eventually did go back to the school and found music classes, and I started I became a music major, and I enrolled in like the school band. It was, it's a community college, so it's not like a full blown, HBCU band. It was like more of a jazz ensemble type of deal. Yeah. So that's at the foundation of my playing. Oh, and shortly after that, I got real comfortable and settled in being a music student. And my niece's father, he passed away, and at his repast, my sister's, one of her friends she grew up with, was a musician, and I have a tattoo of a bass clef around my right ear. So he saw the bass clef around my ear. It's like, oh man, you play bass? I was like, yeah, I'm learning. And he was like, well, I know this guy who plays bass, and he's really good. He plays at this reggae club. Now at this time, I'm 21, and he invited me to come out to the club with him and his wife, because the guy, he was a keyboardist. He's like, yeah, you need to see this guy play. He's great. Da 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 da. I was like, okay, fine. So about a month later, they hit me up and they took me to this club in Chicago called the Exodus, which is not around anymore. So mind you, I had never been in a club in my life. I'm 21. I go to the club, we got there early because, the people who took me was cheap. They didn't want to pay the cover. So we got there before the cover charge kicked in. And so I'm standing around, ain't nobody there. And I'm like, I got real cerebral about it. Like, oh my God. So am I supposed to stand on the side, or do I stand in the middle of the floor when the people come? Am I supposed to like dance right here when nobody's here? I was such a fucking nerd about being in the club. So eventually the band comes, they set up, he pointed out this guy, so it was a reggae band, reggae club, reggae music. And so the band gets started. So the guy who was playing bass was playing a Steinberger headless bass, which is very, very compact, really small, and it's very common in reggae music. So I'm watching this dude play, and I'm just looking at his fingers like, watching everything he was doing, hoping I could learn something by osmosis, because that was my thing when I was first learning. If I watch hard enough, I'll get it. But no, that ain't how it worked. So eventually, when the band took their first break, Marlon is the gentleman who took me to the club with his wife. He pulled the guy who was playing bass, who's Al is his name. He pulled him to the side, and I could tell they was having a conversation about me because he was pointing in. So Al comes over and introduces himself to me. Now, mind you, Al is a full-blown Jamaican with a full-blown accent. And he starts talking to me, and I'm like, what the fuck is he saying? Like, I don't know what he's saying. So I'm looking at him, and I'm nodding and smiling. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck dude is saying, but I don't want to be rude. So I'm nodding and smiling, and he just looking at me like, what? Like, I guess he was asking me questions, and I wasn't responding. I was just nodding and smiling. But eventually, that became my second and longest music mentor, and he's still one of my creative partners to this day. And that's how I began playing reggae music, and I traveled the world singing background in world music, which basically world music is basically pop music in another language. To me, that's my interpretation of it. And so I've been talking for a minute, so now's your turn.
Well, everybody has their, experience of like their memories of their first gig. Can you like tell us your experience about that?
Girl, So I played with the cross-cultural ensemble is what our name was at Harold Washington College. So I can technically call that my first, so that was my first school gig. I was super fucking nervous, and I wanted, if I could like ball myself up and hide up behind my amp, I would have done that. I was so nervous. But my first club gig in a band, I was playing reggae, and I kept telling the sound man to turn the bass down. Like, and in reggae, the bass is very, very prominent. It's like, even though it's not a lead chordal instrument, the bass is very, very pronounced in reggae. So I kept saying, turn the bass down, because I didn't want to draw attention to myself. And I was finding columns on the stage to like kind of duck behind, and I was trying my best to not be seen. So my first gig, I was super nervous, and I was very timid, and I did not want to be seen or heard.
Man, that felt the same way with me. Like, my first gig, and it was a church gig, and usually me playing guitar, I was like sitting here with the amp. I was sitting next to the amp. I had my little corner. I was like hiding right in the corner so nobody would see me. And I even turned my guitar down so I don't want to draw no attention to hitting wrong notes because it'd be a reed. So it was very that everybody usually had these experiences, like you get so nervous and you're afraid you might mess up. But there are a lot of funny moments happen on stage, like broken strings, amps caught on fire, or anything like that. Do you have any funny moments happen while you was on stage?
Girl, fuck yeah. So one time I had this little ass skirt on, right? And that was my thing, like showing my legs on stage and all of that. So one time I had this little skirt on, and we again playing reggae out in Indiana, which is the next state over from Illinois. So this one guy kept standing in front of me, in front of the stage. And I'm like, why the fuck is this dude standing there in front of me? So, girl, eventually, you know how you can, I'm not trying to gross you out, But the way I was standing, and because my skirt was little, you can kind of see my booty cheeks
What?
from the front. Girl. You can see my booty cheeks from the front. So, yeah. So that was any majorly embarrassing moment. No, I take that back, because it was one time, this other show, I was just real nervous. Like, I don't know, like there would be times when I know the material, but I just got super nervous and just couldn't play. And then once I missed the note, and then I felt people was looking, it just was a bass Tourette's. Like, none of the notes was right. The timing wasn't right. So I was going to say that most of my weird moments was with wardrobe or something I had on, but no, there was this one time we did this private party for Kentucky Derby, and Jamaicans in reggae have a bad habit of calling songs that you don't know, you've never practiced, you've never rehearsed, and they'll call the notes like, and we do like the number system. So they're like 1 3 5 5 5 1 2 6 2 3 1 1 1 1 4 2, and it's like, I don't know this fucking song. We didn't rehearse it. Don't fucking do that to me, because somebody came and slid you $10 because they wanted to get Super Cat. I don't know the song, so yeah. But yeah, so the Derby, the day that we played the Derby, I didn't know the song, and I had a meltdown on stage, and the time my booty cheeks could be seen from the front. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Was there another career path you desired as a child other than music, or you just had that moment like that just hit you like, I want to do music for a living?
Girl, I was a little bit of I was peculiar as a child, and I'm still peculiar. So I used to say weird. My sister called me weird, but it's fine. Weird is a badge of honor to me. When I was little, I used to want to be like a spy and an assassin because of the movies I watched. And I probably need therapy to dig deeper into that. I used to want to be a spy. But no, like real legit, like I want to be a fireman or a doctor. Or I used to want to be Grace Jones and a spy and an assassin and then a musician.
So you had your latest album, The Return. Like, how did that title and that leading single come about? Can you like explain the little behind that project?
Yes, girl. So I hadn't done an album since 2011. And I just kind of had got off into some other stuff, like, and I just kind of felt like, no, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. I had got heavy off into church, and I felt that I was made to feel like I had to choose that over my music and over my music being expressed a certain way. So I became like the praise and worship leader and all of that, and music took a back seat to, well, I was still doing music just in a different capacity, but as far as writing albums that weren't, gospel or inspirational or even praise and worship, that genre in and of itself, I didn't do anything. So when things in my life shifted and I recognized that, hey, musicians are really the only people that get pressed in the church, and you made to feel like, oh, well, if you ain't doing this specifically for the Lord or in the Lord's name or with the Lord as the first thing coming out your mouth, then you are not allowed to express or to even really, take advantage of opportunities that your skill set would afford to you that are not, governed by the church or sanctioned by the church. People don't do that to teachers. They don't do that to other people who work in, like, say, if I was a Sunday school teacher and I taught at blippity blip grammar school, nobody's tripping about that.
Yeah.
But because I'm a musician, hey, you can't do that if it ain't for Jesus. So, to wrap up my response to this question, the return was, hey, I'm returning to myself. And I'm returning to my love, which is music, which I allowed to be taken from me, even me, like myself personally, a lot of who I was I suppressed or tried to fit into a certain type of mold to be around a certain type of people, because I felt like I believed the thought or the notion that that's what I had to do in order for God to be pleased with me. And I couldn't have been more miserable and somewhat unproductive because of it. So the return that's what that's about. I'm returning to my purpose, my love, my gifts, my abilities, my authentic self, which nobody can take from me and which God ain't tripping about. You know what I mean?
Amen. Do you have like any new music behind the words that you probably putting out?
I do. So right now I'm working on a full length reggae album, because, and this is why, I come from like, and this is my little narrow view of the world. I just feel like most Black girls, if you're a musician, you grew up in church or you played for church, you know? And that's not the case for everybody, of course, but you know, the cloth I'm cut from, I've been in church all my life. Like I done been in every denomination. I was AME, Kojic, apostolic, non-denominational, prophetic, evangelical, all of the little you digs. So,
Wow.
You know, when you grew up in church, first of all, I grew up singing in church. So, you know, the example that you look to is like a Whitney Houston. You know, she grew up in church and then she quote unquote crossed over, or, you know, went to a worldwide, you know, the world stage per se. So, so my point in saying that is, as a musician, when you have a heavy church background, you usually play in church, and that's where you get your training. That's where you get your bearings and your experience. But for me, as a musician, I went to reggae. That's where I cut my teeth as a young professional musician, and that's why I did a lot of developing. And to me, that's really significant because I'm not Caribbean. I don't have my parents and grandparents. They're not island people. So for me to end up in doing reggae music and then doing world music and singing background for Ethiopian, you know, music royalty, so to speak, that's really significant and unique to my development and my experience as an artist, especially again coming out of the church world. So you know, I want to make sure that I have an album that commemorates that part of my experience. And also because when I've tried to get on like certain reggae festivals or reggae shows, some of the pushback I've gotten from people that are not necessarily familiar with my work or my background, they've said like, oh, she's an R&B singer, she can't sing reggae, she's not a reggae singer. But it's like anybody can. You should definitely want me to sing it reggae, because it takes a different type of vocal chops to sing R&B than it does reggae. But I've experienced people kind of being discriminatory toward me because of it. So I'm putting out the project for a number of reasons, and that reason being so that folks in that, you know, that control opportunities that are unique to the genre, they can never say, oh, I'm not a reggae artist, because I do have a reggae project under my belt.
Man, that is amazing. I can't wait for it to be released. I want to hear more of your music and promote it. Put it all out. I will put it all out on social media. It's like, go get this album. This album's hot.
Oh, thank you, girl. And it's definitely it's halfway done. So I'm super excited about it, and I'm super excited about everything I do. But I just love how it's turning out, and it's not me trying to fit in. Like, you know, reggae can it does have this kind of cookie cutter, you know, sound and cookie cutter top or typical topics within the genre. Like people sing about Jah, which is God, or they sing about weed, and they sing about, you know, political issues, but it's like nobody want to keep hearing that same old shit. You know what I mean? And not dishonoring anybody's expression or dishonoring their expression in the topics that are important to them, whether they fall into those aforementioned categories. But sometimes, you know, for me, I've met some of these people behind the scenes, and some of the stuff they talking about with regard, especially the spiritual stuff, it's like, you couldn't be more of a fucking antithesis clown. Like, you just a whole ass jerk, and you singing about how Ja's gonna get Babylon. Like, you a fucking clown. But anyway, I digress.
I understand you were on the hit television show Empire, and that's sad. It's going to be announced this last season. But what was sad? I'm like, what happened? I don't know. But what was that experience like? And do you plan on doing any other TV appearances or stage shows?
So, yes, I do plan on doing some more TV shows, and I'm actually writing for music for TV ads and films. So you will definitely be hearing my music in commercials and TV shows and things like that in the very near future. With regard to the whole Empire experience, it was fucking amazing. Like, it was awesome. Like, my first time, you know. And I want to say this. I want to preface what I'm about to say with this. For singers, you know, that sing, get an instrument under your belt. That is my strong advice, because, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the saying, be a big fish in a small pond instead of a little fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
When you are a singer, people, you know, we are a dime a dozen. Now, not to diminish the gift, not to diminish its power and its impact, because God made so many of us, because what we have, so many people need it. That's why there's so many of us. But the way that the opportunities are set up, when you have an instrument under your belt, you make yourself that much more marketable, and you open up so many more opportunities for yourself. Like me being a bass player, that I got hired for Empire because I'm a bassist. They didn't give a shit about my voice at all, you know. But because I'm I guess somewhat of an anomaly. I'm a female bassist, and you know, and yeah, so that's what got me that job. Like, a lot of opportunities that I've had that were very unique and very strong ones were because I play bass. Like, I opened for Layla Hathaway in January of 2018. And part of me winning that opportunity was the fact that I'm not only do I sing, but I play an instrument as well. So that has really, really helped to put me over the edge in a lot of ways. So I just want to, you know, encourage singers. It will never hurt you to add an instrument to what you're doing. If it helps you develop your voice, it helps you to express your ideas, and it helps you with your craft. But the question was about Empire, so it was awesome. My first time on set, I had to be there at 5 a.m. We shot for like 12 hours, and I had them big old go-go boots on, and my feet was killing me at the end, but I had to make sure, no matter, you know, how bad my feet was hurting, that shot had to be nice. It had to look good. I had to look like I was having fun, and it had to look authentic. And, you know, Terrence Howard was really, really nice. He didn't have to, but he like walked up to me and introduced himself and welcomed me to the set. Some of the other people, other cast members, they weren't like immediately engaging, but everybody had a pleasantness about them. Jussie Smollett was really, really nice. He was welcoming. He was, you could tell he Hollywood, but he was everyday. He was intentionally everyday people with us, you know, interacting with the musicians. And the second time I appeared on there, I actually got to meet Frank Gatson behind the scenes. He's he was doing some he was a creative director for some projects Jussie Smollett was working on, and I got to meet him in passing. So, you know, it was great. And one thing I learned is, no matter how excited you are, and no matter how much you may love the people that you get to interact with, and you may love their work, and you may want to work with them, you got to be very, very cool and relaxed. You can't just be, oh my God, can I get a picture? Can you sign this? Can I get your number? Because can I give you my? You gotta be chill, because if you are a little overzealous, and even if you mean well, sometimes, you know, you're there to do a job, and you're there to do a specific job. So you have to just be chill and say hello and act like you belong there. You know, not like a jerk, or not like, you know, entitled, but just be easy. Like, this is what I do, and this is my realm, and I ain't finna flip out my shoes because I seen, Beyonce and Michael Jackson's choreographer, like, Annie Bowlegged, so goddamn. So, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta chill. I hope I appear again before the season, and the final season wraps, but I don't know. I won't know until I get that call.
The next question is very fun. Like, what did you like to do when you're not doing music and you're not acting, you're not playing with your bass? What do you enjoy in your most of your spare time?
Girl, shit, watching cartoons and eating. That sounds so like juvenile, but yeah, I just like to relax and to chill and to feel peace around me and to not be stressed. And I love comedy. I just like to feel comfort, and music takes up a lot of my thought process every day. Like, every single day, I'm always thinking about how I can, look my best, be my best, sound my best, and what am I doing? What is my diet doing to my voice? And how often am I practicing? Or what are these things what is the job? How is the job impacting my ability to, keep my skill sets up to par? So I really do spend a lot of time thinking about the craft. But when I'm not doing it, I just like to relax and be with family and just do things that don't stress me out. Like, I have an empathic personality, so like regular TV stresses me out. Like, I take stuff, I can watch TV and I be like, I really be mad at these people. Like, number one, they real. Number two, I know them. And number three, their scripted actions are personal against me. Like, that's how I react to TV. It is so aggravating. I be really in my feelings. So I just have to watch things that are neutral and just funny so that I could just chill out. Because drama is too much for the kids.
Yeah. Especially all that reality TV, all that petty.
I don't know. Let me not get it twisted, because I do enjoy what is it called? Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I like the Atlanta one.
Yes.
And I do like Basketball Wives. They ass be tripping me out. I dip in and out. I don't watch it faithfully, but I dip in and out. And then I had to chill out with watching Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, because I was just starting to get real, I won't blame it on TV, but just certain stuff, I don't know, I just got real loose with calling people random bitches. Like, bitch, when did you ever start talking like that? You don't even, you used to be offended by that. Who's calling people bitches? No, that's not okay. And now that shit just rolled off my tongue so easy now. You need to curb your intake of what are you watching? What are you taking in? Because that ain't cool.
Do you have any, oh my God, sorry. Do you have any advice to any aspiring female musicians, young and old, and would that advice differ depending on their age?
No, yes. Number one, as far as the age piece, you're never too old. Never. And I used to harp on that. I didn't start playing bass till I was 21, 22 or something like that. And I used to really feel bad. I felt behind the curve because I felt like if you want to be a musician, you're supposed to start when you 9 or something. But, Eric Clapton, one of the most celebrated musicians of ever, didn't start till he was in his 20s. And he had many false starts before then. He just did not, he started young, but he did not get a grasp the concept of the instrument until he was in his 20s. So he started a bunch of times, didn't get it. The shit didn't click till the man was well in his 20s. Now, if you 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever, it will never, ever, ever be a disadvantage to you to pick up an instrument. Never. Now, if you're looking at it, you picking up an instrument through the eyes of, oh, I got to look a certain way on stage. I got to be young. Or if I want to play for a certain artist, I have to be this age. You can't make it about what's external influences. If I look at, I want to play for Rihanna or Normani, I'm not in my 20s, but I know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm not gonna ever be like, oh, I'm not in my 20s. That opportunity will never come to me. No, it's all about how you feel about yourself within, and music is so much bigger than reducing it to an opportunity or reducing it to the mind frame of, oh, you got to be this age and have this look and all that old bullshit. Music is beneficial to your heart and your mind and your soul and your cells. And even if you pick it up and you continue to play, it has benefits for the aging brain and the aging body. So it's so much bigger than the shallow shit that we reduce it to. Being a musician is what I mean. So, if you're gonna pick it up, and you don't have to be 5 out 12 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, even if you do 10 minutes a day, if that's all you got, then that's what you do, because that stuff adds up. It adds up, and over time you'll look back and say, wow, there was a time I never thought I would be able to sing and play at the same time. There was a time I literally thought that I would watch people sing and play, and I used to think, man, am I ever going to be able to do that? Man, I remember saying to myself, I wouldn't, but now I can. And, anything that you decide that you're going to do, even if you have thoughts that you can't, or you may not be as good at it, just still put in the work and put in the time, and you'll prove yourself wrong. That's the advice I have with regard to age. Like, don't buy into the whole, like, I believe it's the pop mentality, because in pop you age in dog years. If you 12, you 18, you 26, you 26, you fucking a corpse. So you can't do that. That's one thing I love about reggae. You can have one tooth in your mouth, a fucking glass eyeball, and be ugly and musty. As long as your shit is good and your message is righteous and your message resonates, I'll say, you can be on that stage and you can be 90 years old still singing reggae, and you ain't gotta have all the look, that a lot of American forms of music say you have to be relevant. That's one of the things I really, really love about reggae. And one thing I take away from that, if I decide to do whatever, it don't matter what somebody else outside of me has to say about what I should look like and all of that. If my skills are where they need to be and my expression is undeniable, ain't shit nobody else can say or do to stop me from being where I want to be, because I put in the work and the time, and that realm is gonna honor me, because nobody does what I do the way I do it, and I do it well. And then as far as advice, this is like fret sisters, so I would imagine a lot of women follow this podcast and follow your pages. Take that female shit off of what you do. Oh, I'm a female this, I'm a female that. Now play that card if that's gonna get you the opportunity, but don't let that sit on, oh, I'm a female bassist, I'm a female guitarist, I'm a female pianist. Because when you step in the room, you gotta deliver. Male, female, brown, yellow, Puerto Rican, or Haitian, you gotta deliver. So sometimes, and this is what I bought into, what kind of handicapped my skill set, because I was all about looking good, looking the part, but I looked unique, I looked interesting, I looked attractive, but sometimes my shit wasn't up to par. My skills weren't up to par, and I didn't sound the best, or I didn't look the best. So I got on stage doing all these fucking moves, and I open my mouth and I'm out of breath and shit. So it's like, really put in the time, put in the work, let your image, your body, your makeup, your whatever, however you want to present yourself, that shit is the icing on the cake. But make sure the cake is baked and the cake is right, and the ingredients are in there the way they need to be. So when you serve that to somebody, it's like they ain't getting the cake that look good, but on the inside is styrofoam. Like, damn, I thought that was some real ass cake. That ain't shit. So, yeah, for real. Like, put your head down and do the work, and ain't nobody gonna be able to deny you nothing. You being a woman or a female is just, it's just the mwah. It just adds to it, but never never lead with that. Don't get me wrong, milk that shit, because there is a power to it.
I'm letting that marinate in my brain right now while I'm sitting here taking these notes. Well, we are like typical gearheads, I would say. Can you tell us, like, what was your gear that you used on stage, like your go-to? rig?
Oh, you know what? To be honest, I don't. When I've done shows, the rigs are usually provided.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I do have what I practice out of at home is the TC Electronics. The amp where they have the where you can hook up into it. There's an app that goes with it, and you can say if they have a sound bank in the app, and you can pull up a sound bank okay, for example, if they may have a Marcus Miller sound, they may have a Nick West sound, they may have a Les Claypool sound in the app. You can pull that app up, pull that sound bank up in the app, hook it up to the amp, and you can actually play through the app, and it'll make your bass sound like that person's sound through the app.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the TC Electronics. Let me tell you what series it is. The BG250, the tone print. I have to get back, not back, but I have to get into like the gear part, because I've not been like a gearhead, or I know the sound I want, and I know I go to the tech shop and describe it. Like, I want a fat bottom, nice mids, nice highs, and I want it clean. But I don't be like, oh, I need this these EMGs with the humbuckers, and I need the preamp from. I'm not super versed in that whatsoever.
Well, can you tell our listeners where they can follow you on social media or anything like that?
Absolutely. My social media handle for all platforms, I won't say all because, there's a thing called TikTok, and I'm not on that at all. And I have a Twitter, but I don't use it. So my handle is I am Pia, Pia Renee, Renee. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. You're going to see probably a 2-year-old tweet on there, though. Yeah, and that's where I'm at. And my website is Pia Renee, PIARENEE.com. And that's the way I be in these digital streets.
So I would like to thank Pia Renee for joining in with us. This is a very Keep It 100 show that I have ever did so far in this season, which is very awesome because
Yay.
I don't like to hold back my feelings either. So this is going to be definitely unfiltered.
Yay.
And if you like to follow us on social media, anything like upcoming episodes, behind the scenes, our quick tips, our daily posts, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fret Sisters. There you have it. I'm Shawn Marshall, and thank you for listening. Bye.